Saturday, 14th June 2025 at the Eldoret Club.
Are up on YouTube, on Facebook, and on X as well. And as we continue having these conversations, always good to have you as you join us in them. All right, there's a lot happening, and our guest for this hour is already seated. And this morning, we have him again, as we have had before, and we said that last time that he was here that we were going to do a follow-up into the near future to see what exactly was going on, and we're doing that this morning. Simon Gishuki is the Secretary General of the Association of Public Sector General Suppliers, and we're asking the questions this morning around where does the money go, understanding county spending and debt. He joins us this morning, and very, very good morning to you, Simon.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Just like every other Kenyan, I am there.
You are there?
Nikotu.
You're somewhere there. Somewhere just hanging.
Ukotu.
No.
Yes.
I know that seems to be the answer from a lot of people for a lot of reasons. We're going to get into county spending and that conversation. We talked about pending bills, and we said that, a couple of months down the line, we're going to come back and say, okay, where are we now? If there's any difference in terms of what's happening with folks. But from the position of somebody who does supplies, who's owed pending bills, who is having conversations with others who are owed as well, perfectly poised to have that conversation with us. But first of all, let's welcome you to the show, and we'd like you to do an interpretation of today's proverb for us. Mark will tell you where we are this week, and then we'd like to hear your take on this proverb. All right?
Which country only borders Mozambique and South Africa? Okay, that's not the proverb. Well, don't worry about it.
Mozambique and South Africa. Okay.
You're correct.
Botswana.
It is that small. Botswana has more neighbors than that.
Oh, has more
There's
neighbors.
a place called Eswatini.
Oh, Eswatini.
AKA Swaziland.
Yes.
AKA the land where I'd like to be king of that place.
I'm sure you would.
King of that place, man. That guy has watches more than the entire GDP of the country. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm laughing at my jokes. Bad manners. When a gorilla is in power, the monkeys are happy.
You see some of these proverbs, they would easily get you arrested. Because what are gorillas known for? They're greedy, they're selfish, and their family members, the monkey, would always be happy when one of them is there, because they can eat as much as they can and for no one's care. So let's not interpret it in a local setting for the safety of all of us.
But no, locally, we don't have gorillas. Let's start there. Do we have gorillas in Kenya? No.
You don't need to look far, Mark.
No, I'm just saying we have monkeys.
Why would you ask an obvious question?
No, you see, so that it's not in the Kenyan setting.
All right, so he's trying to protect you, essentially, is what he's trying to say.
Yeah. Just protect. I need to see 2027.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Last time you were here, Simon, we talked about, the pending bills, and this is... So they're pending bills in different tiers, but what we're looking at right now is happening at the county level. And also then what spending looks like. But the overarching question that we have this morning in terms of monies that have been allocated to county for certain things, we're asking the question, where does that go? We've been told, over and over again, that the first charge on monies coming into counties is recurrent expenditure. That goes towards salaries, of course, as well as, debts owed and things like this. Leaves little for development. And we also know that the Auditor General, as well as the Controller of Budget, have told us what the absorption rates for funds have been across county over the years. But there seems to still be an issue, isn't it? That we're not really quite sure where some of these monies actually go. There's a lot that's being lobbied for money to go to the counties between Senate and the National Assembly. But what actually then gets to county, what we're looking at now is a 402 billion, right? Where does the money go? Where do you see the money go as people who do work in the counties?
Okay. For starters, I think when good deeds are done, we appreciate. And when things go wrong, we will still be here to discuss it. I've always said, directly or indirectly, close to 70% of businesses will trade with government, directly or indirectly. That so means that you'll be looking at a chance of a very high percentage of businesses depending on government. So someone will always ask, out of the 4 or 2 billion that goes to counties, what does that money go to? Number one, we are looking at the recurrent. Could be salaries, could be the normal office things. There's no money that disappears in counties. It is either money is stolen or it is for the right purposes. So anyone who tells you money disappears, money doesn't disappear from accounts. Someone signs off the money through the right channels to fictitious bills or to whatever, but no one should ever tell you that county will lose money. No one should also tell you that a governor can walk into a CC's office and ask for money and it leaves the exchequer and disappears. That's hot air. What normally happens is how we do our procurement, which is a problem. And let me give credit, first of all, to the national government. So far, anyone who had the right documents for the right value of products that was supplied and documentation supported, they'll get their money paid.
Okay.
Could be this financial year that is coming, 2025, 2026, could be later, but you're sure that is your money and you duly supplied government and they duly acknowledge the debt. Number one is acknowledging that the debt will be paid with a time frame of when it shall be paid. Number two is when you do not have the right documents, then the national government won't pay your money, which is again a case of bringing us to an era where we will start valuing proper documentation in organizations, because at the end of it all, that's what you will require to claim funds.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to counties, it's a different ball game. We need to hold people accountable for the signatures they put on LSOs. If you give me an LSO to supply, and down there's a small party says that this signature means that there's money. So they're actually guaranteeing that you supply, we pay you. Then after supplying, the story starts. They don't pay you, they don't do that, they don't do that. And they even push you. For example, right now guys are being told we'll pay you in August. So basically what you're being told is that you await for luck that we'll consider this now as a pending bill in the new financial year. So what you've essentially done is you've committed to pay me during this financial year with a planned amount, but you have overspent.
Okay.
One, because there's no checks and balances as to how much the people who are allowed to sign should commit an organization to.
But overspent on what, Simon? So there's a budget. We spend so much time doing, in specifically for counties, it's the CIDPs. They do this, so they know this is a development plan, this is what we're going to do, this is how much money we need, and this is where we're going to get it, yes? So when we say overspent on what? Everything was budgeted for.
This is what was budgeted for, but they'll always over-procure. There's a very big problem with how we do procurement, because we never hold people accountable when they commit organizations, services are rendered, and there's no payment going on. We never, ever, ever prosecute them. So you'll find a clerk of a county assembly will easily authorize a payment, then the finance officer confirms there's money, and then you supply them, they still tell you we're waiting for exchequer. We still don't have cases where a county will say that the last financial year we never received all our money, because that then would support the fact that there are pending bills.
They don't say.
We've never had a case. It would be on media, where a county would say, for example, Nairobi would say, we expected X number of billions, we received X minus 10%. Then we'd expect that 10% would be unaccounted for, would be part of the pending bills. These signatures we are penned on LSOs is where the problem starts. Because once you've committed an organization to supply a county, and then you're not paying, you after they supply, you tell them they're waiting for exchequer, then my question should be, when you come to Nairobi to get the money, then the first persons to be paid should be these people who you allowed to supply. Some of us are chasing bills of 2021, which basically means you are part of the money the president allocated to counties. You are budgeted for that year. You supplied because there was a budget for you. Now, come 2022, you are told you can wait after we are done doing our local supplies, then we can figure out whether your pending bills will be factored in. It wasn't. 2023, the same. So it continues as a game. Now, the loser here isn't the county, isn't even the official who signed that document. It's a normal businesses being run by normal Kenyans who are being told that the means to livelihood in your country is to invest in your own country, where those who don't pay you are never held liable. But you have salaries to pay, you have suppliers to pay, you have statutories to sort.
And you finish the job.
And you finish the job. And at the end of the day, whoever supplies, I've always said comfortably, until we hold civil servants to account post their retirement, they will learn to respect when they put signatures on the documents.
You see, you see, Simon, when you talk about matters to do with pending bills, if you go to Regulation 55 2B of the Public Finance Management, County Government's regulations, pending bills must be treated as the first charge on budget allocations. That's according to the Senate and COB recommendations.
So those recommendations, are they anchored in any law?
So all these regulations, as much as they exist, there is no law that is backing them. That means it's picky ponky.
Let me, because it's counties. I don't know if you've had a chance to sit with the MCAs and see their reasoning in the budget process.
How do they reason?
Okay, they don't reason. That's something.
Okay.
So
MCA's polemics.
we have a problem with how we do our budgets. Even our constitution talks about our first charge being the debts.
Yes.
So has any county, the ones that audited the debt, actually put that as a first charge? Nairobi did it with the Wakili Kamodo. Oranga did it. Have they put it as a first charge in this budget that is coming up? We did letters to all county assemblies, and all we requested was, is there a chance that we can have this debt be recognized as the other commercial bank debts that you have? Now, unless that is factored in, any pending bill is paid based on how much you can bribe. No other reason. Because it hasn't been factored in any budget. So where will they get the money to pay you? Because we must stop lying and saying the county will pay you. Nairobi is at 100 plus, Kiambu is at 6 billion, and the other counties. So unless it is factored in this coming budget as a prorated figure, meaning you've been told that these are the audited budget bills. So we have given you 2 billion, pay 30% of all of them. So you as a supplier, you're even comfortable. You can negotiate with your bank. I'll pay 30% this financial year, 2027, 28, I'll pay another 30%. And it goes like that. Unless that is budgeted, where are we going to get the money from? Because we have made supplying government to be cartel-like, where a governor comes in and the first thing you're asking yourself, as a genuine entrepreneur in Kenya, is that who do I know in that CC? So that now I align myself well, so that when I supply, I get paid.
I got discouraged from doing business with counties many years ago, when one of the richest friends I knew started asking for loans that were quite cheap, 1,000, 2,000, because of this thing called pending bills, and because the CEC he knew was transferred. Very key. Now, I hear you when you say that these guys called MCAs etc, and then for making the budget, and the people who sign off on these contracts needs to be held personally liable. Problem with that is twofold. One, he will go to jail. Does not guarantee you get your money, right?
But there's a beauty about going to jail.
Yeah.
Look at the Waitito case.
Yes.
The governor friends will easily tell you, kila mtu saya anajikava.
Yeah.
Because this is what happens when you're in power. You have a cover. Because you have a political party on your side. You have most likely on the president's side, you have a cover.
Yeah.
But power is transient. One day itaisha. Now when power leaves you, everything including your friends leave you. So it's okay. Right now they have that. So as a governor, as a CEC, you're covered. You will leave power. Right now we are you saw the case of Nyandara, they jailed the governor.
Yes.
Now, if he was in power as an MP or an MCA, you think he would have been jailed?
Of course not.
Thank you.
That's good in terms of discipline. But I'm looking at the remedies in terms of the pending bills. You've said about a pro rata way of doing things. But when you contracted yourself, you did not contract yourself pro rata.
Yes.
Right? You expected to be paid within a certain period, within a certain budget. Okay? My question is, when they're finishing that financial year in which you did your work, how is that debt transferred to the next government and how is it treated? Because from what at least I know from the Public Finance Act is that when something is designated for the year 2025-2026 and budget allocated, the money is made available that year.
Yes.
So it means when it rolls over to the next year, it's already an illegality.
So what happens? Kuna hii kitu ya pesa ni ya governor. Which is
a question, but okay.
Which basically means you see there's what is in law.
Yeah.
There's what happens in these institutions.
Yes.
Counties are run like households.
Uh-huh.
You can actually call a governor, complain to, or you meet and he likes you. Atuko na shida budget gani? Sijalipo pesa fulani. Tomorrow morning you have money in your account.
What?
Because he's your
That's
friend.
how they are
and you had
running
a coffee.
the counties. So we must call them out because they are destroying livelihoods by running counties like households. Ask how many people. I wish if you pose that question, how many Kenyans have to bribe counties to get their legally owed money? It basically means someone is asking you for 20%. And maybe your interest is 10%. Oh, sorry, your profit was 10%.
My dear
and without the 20%, you won't get paid. And there are counties where it's even governors' wives who authorize payments.
Hi.
And it's not something wrong. If you want to find out for yourself, go to these newspapers. I've seen we already have 2 tenders.
Yeah.
Those tenders, there are people who supplied last year, they were never paid. But now things are required in an office.
Yeah.
So now what do? Because while watagopa ku supply, now new people will supply. So you end up seeing you have 20 guys who sell furniture and all of them are owed by counties. So you have a communion.
And you're saying basically this is at the discretion of a governor. or
Because
his wife.
we threw away the best practices in accounting. The moment we got to an era where we don't hold our governors accountable. And number 2, our CECs are basically there at the beck and call of the governor. So they're told usilipe yo, even if it's whatever case, you won't be paid. And there's no recourse. There's nothing much you can do. So we've gotten to a level where we need to find out how to hold the CECs responsible and the chief officers personally responsible so that there's fear. Because signature, ile kidole kwa documents za gava zote. The chief officer and clerks and CEOs of the public service boards. Governor doesn't sign any document.
So how hopelessly broken is the system when you say that bills are at the beck and call of a governor? Because I'm trying to think, there's a process, there's a budget office, there's a parliament, there's Senate, there's MCAs.
Sorry, Mark. There is this activity, and I just want to see how it plugs in here. There is an activity at the beginning of every 5 years where people go, they spend millions for tents and accommodation and per diem, and people go and they plan how they're going to spend money.
Yes.
They plan the projects that they're going to get involved in. Am I wrong?
What projects?
Called,
the CIPD.
they're called the CIDPs.
Yes.
That is what they are. They're the county development plan.
Yes.
This is where all of this happens.
True.
So my question is, based on what you're saying, my question is, you have a plan, you have a budget. Why then do we have a situation whereby for an entire entity like this, it would appear as though, oh, you did something that was part of this CIDP, right? But okay, you've not been paid. Let me just pay you via M-Pesa. That's what it looks like.
Yes.
We have always asked, do we even have a county procurement plan for any county, the 47? Because everything lands with a strategic plan.
Yes.
So if you have a CIPD, it means you have a watertight HR plan because you need personnel to implement the plan, watertight finance plan for 5 years, watertight procurement plan for 5 years, and even a watertight development plan.
Yes.
Do you have any of the count with those 4 documents? Which basically means that, number one, let me even give you a practical example. How do counties make money? Their own revenue.
Yes.
Is by ensuring there is stimulus growth uko mashinani, you collect money from SOCOs and the hospitals are working. Now, mashinani, you are the main supplier. Let's say, let me look for a county, Nyamira town. You're the main suppliers of grocery, milk and whatever, and you've not been paid by the county. So number one, you are not able to pay your license fees. So revenue goes down. Yes. You had employed 20 people, now you're employing 5. Pay goes down. You had a kibanda there, you are doing soko, now you don't even have that one. Yet, maybe your supplies to the county is 100, 200,000. And most of these supplies to the county, the guys are not even asking for millions. Most people are between 50,000 and 400,000.
You know, let me tell you, I even want to remove my glasses to see you better.
Okay.
Because the little time I spent in government, I knew one thing, that the most looked at document is the procurement plan. It was watertight. We knew that you could actually assess much of the expenditure of your institution by going through a procurement plan, which is discussed every year, ratified and approved. You are saying now that there are counties, if not all, that do not even know what they are buying this year.
They even call. You hear counties calling, pigia nani supply. Apana huyo alikata jumnamuo. So call someone else. Because these guys will send quotations out. You won't reply to the quotations. Because why are you? We're already in a hole. You see, the problem with our country, we've not admitted that we're in a hole. We're already in a very dark one. We're already about 200 billion counties. That means 200 billion worth of supplies made.
Yes.
And let's approximate 30% profit.
Yes.
We're talking about 140 billion worth of investments.
Yes.
Let's assume out of this, we normally get 50% loans. So we're talking about 70 billion worth of loans. Are you seeing those figures?
Yeah.
Higher. Let's assume all this. We're talking about 10, 15,000 companies. There are 15,000 minimum individuals who invested in various fields in the hope that now, since I don't want to do an 8-to-5 job, I'm an entrepreneur. Employing an average 2 people, 30,000 livelihoods. So we're talking about 47 counties that are destroying over 30,000 livelihoods comfortably. Banks that have loans and collaterals that they would want to dispose, but right now, who is even buying those assets?
But Simon, I hear what you're saying. I want to look below that just a little bit to have an understanding, so that this hole that you speak about that we're so obviously in, are we saying that at the county level, what we would see as best practice actually doesn't happen? That I, put forward a tender as a business, as an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be. I tender. It's the tender documents come out from county. I apply, right? I am awarded the tender. I go and seek, capital if I need that to happen.
Yes.
I do the project and all the approvals are given. I do the project. I complete the project and I take my papers in for payment at the county level. And 90 days, whatever, I am paid. Are you telling me that process does not happen in the way in which I have described it at the county level?
They will tender because there's a PPRA Act that forces them to follow some processes. You will win your product, your project. You will get even the mobilization fee, call it 30%. You will deliver an entire project because after that you need to be paid.
Yes.
Then Chezo town in Anza. Those guys who are picking your calls are the first tranche. Remember, most likely at that point, they are still sure they need some work done. So they really need that project done, whether it is a road that was supposed to be finished or something that was supposed to be delivered. When you're done, your need is done at that point. Now they can look for a supplier to do the same game. That's why, for you to supply in counties right now, I've always said this and people say I'm a bit rude, but it's true. We are headed to an era where it's like supplying in counties. For you to get paid, you must belong to a certain cult.
Yeah.
So once you finish, Now you look for the cult to join to get your money out.
No, you've not answered my
And
question.
remember, it's your money. Remember, this is what the one thing I always say. First of all, the word best practices and counties can't be the same sentence. Of whatever nature, of whatever department, whether you're looking at finance, HR, procurement, that is something that never will be, never has been.
Simon, just answer my question. You cannot today, or rather the practice has not been that you tender, you are awarded, you get your 30% mobilization, you finish the project, you put in your papers, in 90 days you get paid. It doesn't happen.
All big corporates will be working right now. Ask a serious corporate about working with counties. What are they telling you? Wait after your kazi, nilipe, I subcontract me, I do the business, go back in a county.
What Ndu pretty much is asking is it does not exist. That's the answer.
Listen, the term he has used is you need to join a cult. You are the third businessman to tell me that this year. That literally, it's a cartel. You go to drink together, smoke together, know where the business is done, then you got to be part of that crew. When you're part of that crew, now you can be paid. Is that what you're saying?
And you know the funny thing?
Yeah.
It's not even about them not paying you. It's the audacity.
Surely.
That even if I don't pay you, there's no way you can take us. Because at the end of the day, you will sue me. My term will end. There's cases against a chief officer. The office of the chief officer. When I'm done, I am done with my term. However many livelihoods I've destroyed, it's none of my business. So we end up with a culture where you look at the LPOs, guys are sending you for counties, telling you, Simon, do you know someone here? And all of them have a signature confirming before you start the job that there is actually money. For that LSO, there's actually money. So that up there, actually, most Kenyans have never seen a government LSO. And 90%, the most important part is the commitment, Palechini.
Right.
That, let me read for you what it says. Let me look for one from too many here. It gets to a point where, Ellen, the last LSO was from an assembly. They actually called and said, we are going to pay next financial year.
Okay. Oh, wow.
With no chills.
Next financial year?
Yes.
Okay, 25, 26. Okay.
Yes. So there's a place where it says, I confirm that the funds are available and that has been noted in the vote book. That signature is more powerful than the approval.
And it is on this
LSO
document, which is legal. It's a legal document.
So it actually says, whoever has done this has just confirmed there's money. So could you supply?
Okay, let's take a break. Because then we want to then ask the question, where does the money go? And the people who... Look, Simon, we've heard the horror stories. People have committed suicide. People have lost everything. Auctioneers have come and taken people's everything because they've not been able to pay the bank, which they went to take money from to complete this project in the hopes that county would pay them. That's the reality of our times.
Yes.
That's where we're living in today. So the question when we come back from this is, where does this money actually go? Because you've just confirmed to us that these documents that you're given, they tell you that the money is actually available. So if you're not paying the people for the project, where does the money go? We'll come back and we'll continue with this conversation. We're asking that question and we're saying in the counties this morning, the pending bills, over 200 billion shillings. We're talking about in a financial year. We're not even talking about the ones that happened before that. And we'll come back and we'll continue with this. Simon Gishuki is the Secretary General of the Association of Public Sector General Suppliers and understanding county spending and debt and where it actually comes from or where it goes. 24/7. We'll be back after this. The question for which there was a budget across counties, why do we have such high? So if the money has been confirmed that it is there when you receive this document, you as a supplier, as a contractor, whatever the case may be, you have a document, the LSO, which at the bottom of it, with a signature behind it, confirms that there is money. It's, if anything, it's the life. It gives you some life and you say, okay, fine, I can go ahead and do this. So in the event that you have completed this project and then you do not get paid, where does the money go?
The most obvious answer has always been Tunangoja Exchequer. And they will always tell you Treasury is going to give us money, then we'll disperse to you. The part where we are coming to, which would be an interesting next 1 year to watch, is where now as a forum, we are going to hold people accountable for the pending bills. Because you're in charge of finance and you're killing businesses. That's an economic crime. We have impeached CECs and chief officers for far much lesser crimes. Now, economic sabotage is even a far much worse crime globally. So what we are trying to do, which we will do, is by ensuring that your chief officer is fine. Let's get you out of the way so that now, as we destabilize these chief officers who are not doing their work, then the governors will start reasoning. Number two, we must ask our counties to stop this business of overspending. It's like we get excited with new projects because at the end of the day, the only way to make more money as a governor is create fictitious projects left, right, and center. Then at the end of the day, they are left. So you'll find right now, every county has a big development project. I was shocked. Did you know Nairobi has a affordable housing project?
Yes, yes.
Of its own.
Yes. Woodley.
How did you know?
There's one in Woodley.
And I saw the other day and asked myself, tushamaliza kulipa suppliers, sasa tumefika a point where now we put another group of contractors on debt. Because that will basically be debt. Because if you're looking at 10, 15 billion worth of a project for 2 years, so do you have 5 billion every year for that project? And that's how you actually realize we get into debt.
Simon, so there is the LSO that is signed, which is a commitment that there is money to spend, right?
Yes.
But then again, there is also the issue that we see every other budget here, the fact that the National Treasury is delaying in disbursement of funds. Is that the fact, or is that just an excuse for counting?
By 30th June, have they disbursed all the amounts? So by 30th June, supplier then who was supposed to be paid in November last year should be cleared.
Yes.
Because we don't have a case where counties will say, we never got 50% of our monies.
Okay.
Okay.
The crisis has always been, we over-procure. That's why I said, even right now, we're going to 2025, 2026, no county can comfortably tell you, and I want you to invite these governors and ask them, do we have a watertight procurement plan for the next financial, including a development plan for the next financial year, which basically helps them do proper procurement, do proper planning. Number two, the other evil we have, which is a very big devil, and I'm sure the COB will concur with me, is this overestimating on-source revenue.
Why do they do that?
Sorry.
Because the only way you will get more money into your more figures for procuring.
But that's it's a counter narrative, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're talking about on-source revenue, if you look at the sum of the charges YT2 has, right, and you can talk about them because it's been convicted, is about intercepting on-source revenue, right? That monies are coming from markets, monies are coming from parking, etc. And instead of going straight to the bank, there's a middleman here called the governor who is taking the on-source revenue. So how can you budget on on-source revenue when you are the one eating from the on-source revenue?
Now, this is what I always say.
Yeah.
If the governor stole that on-source revenue, the owner of the on-source revenue should be in jail with the governor. The revenue director should be in jail with the governor.
Yes.
The CC finance should be in jail with the governor. That's how you know that's a political charge. Because on-source revenue means tulikula watu watano.
Yes.
Sini kweli?
Yes.
Hawa watano wako wapi waende jela. Because Public Finance Act is very strong.
Yes, it is.
And it protects everyone.
Yes.
So the company that does revenue collection, it is still doing it today in Kiambu.
Yes.
So we can't say, then if it was wrong, I'm sure the control of budget would have questioned their use there. Number two, if the money was coming there, the other person who should have been jailed is also the branch managers of these banks. Because if you receive money in bulk, there's a question that go to FRC.
Yeah.
We are putting a caution on this account because we've noticed too much cash coming in. So on-source revenue will never be stolen like that. The biggest source with these governors is pewa kickback, chukua cash yote, weka kwa account.
Yeah.
So where they get to be foolish is when now they use this money to buy assets, and when questioned, they cannot be able to support the money they got in to buy that asset. And that's why you find those very, very corrupt governors. They don't buy assets. They have zero assets.
Okay. So...
because without a track of the flow of money, you will never be able to know who bribed who.
Yeah.
And where does it end? In an asset. So what does the corrupt guys do? Ensure there's no physical asset to attach to. So Governor Kotu Nairobi na pro box his entire life, but he's living A1 life. But you try looking for properties he owns zero.
You won't find them.
These guys are hidden their things in the modern means.
So we know this clearly. What this is just it's like the mafia that's happening here, based on what you've said. And just for purposes of clarity, you, Simon, are one of the suppliers. You've done work at the county, so you've seen the trajectory that this takes over time. Do counties still owe you money at some point? You are still owed by county.
Yeah, ni kama sheria.
It's like if you're not owed by county, you're not a supplier.
When you supply counties, there are counties you think are sane and they will pay, and have been for the longest. Not all counties are bad.
Okay.
So you will go to those counties in the hope that they will pay.
Yes.
Granted.
Yeah.
Then one or two officers come in and the entire shape changes. Because I'll give you a good example. There's a county in Western Kenya. In the last two regimes, you pay without knowing anyone and you get paid. I always tell people that is a story I'll give one day.
Hosanna in the highest.
Because they were okay. The systems were working. The processes were working. Even the staff will tell you there that we were being paid very well. Now the system changes and a man comes and he wants to authorize everything. So if the governor is in Nairobi, nothing gets passed. We have other counties, and I give a good example. We have other assemblies and county assemblies that in the last, before 2022, you didn't need to know anyone to supply.
Which county is that? It's good for us. You know why it's good for us to know this?
Kakamega was an amazing county to supply under Oparanya comfortably. Supplied, got paid many times. There's this other county, I'm trying to get the name. Mubaminjoki first time, amazing man. So we have many of them. If you go north, by that Turkana did a good job. And Nanok, they were paying on time. First time of Delhi to pay on time. So the examples of county assemblies that were paying on time, there are many. And they would pay you on time. And you didn't need to know anyone to get so they had a bit of processes running.
Right.
And then we come to an era where governors realize, so 10% works. And now everything is on their desk. Because in this day and age, the president doesn't approve any payment. So does the governor. They are not part of any procurement plan or any procurement process for payment. But you'll find it gets to a point where CC is telling you, mkubwa alisema hizi silipwe. So you're the CEC, mkubwa wako ni nani?
Okay. So the part B of that question, was that what are these things, and it could be across board, but what are these things that are being supplied to county? There's stationery in offices, there's furniture, there's soft services, catering.
So
what are some of these things?
Let's start with the basic ones.
Okay.
After salaries, the office has to run.
Okay.
The office run because there's stationery and there's office supplies. So these office supplies form a very big chunk because they're supplied almost on a daily basis. Then counties have to develop, they have to run the offices.
Yes.
So we have consultancies, people who advise the governor, people who do documents to educate the county on so many things. They don't get paid. The counties will also hold events in hotels. They don't get paid. There are roads that will be contracted. I mean, there'll be contractors who don't get paid. There'll be flight tickets of governors enjoying life. Agencies. They don't get paid. And the crisis with agencies is what? They are at a rule.
They have to pay within 28 days.
No, it's now 7 days.
7 days now.
Oh, wow.
Which basically means now it's their money. Kitambo walikuwa na leeway. Now there's no that leeway. Now we also have guys who basically supply uniforms and stuff like that. So you find the suppliers of goods and services are using their own money to basically fund counties at zero interest.
Okay. All of these things that are being provided, are they actually, apart from the airline tickets and things like those, are they actually being used? You said there's an oversupply at the counties, is it because there's too much that's being asked for, number one? Or is it that because I contracted Mark to give me office supplies in the week or in the month of June, July, August, I have not paid him. So because I'm trying to get rid of that drama, I bring on Simon to supply me. So more and more people just continue supplying. We are not paying them, but they keep bringing and we are not paying them. So is that where the oversupply comes from?
No, the oversupply comes from the fact that we over budget.
Okay.
So we want to do 100 roads, but deep down the governor knows I can only do 50 roads. But because he needs another term, what does he do? So I get 50 roads, I pay all of you 20%, and I get another 50 roads, I pay another 30%.
Oh, for crying out loud. Okay.
So at the end of the day, mtakuwa mmelipwa kidogo nyinyi wote in the hope that this money will come in. And there is always, let me tell you, no one refuses good business. So you'll always be hoping that nitalipwa. So we've gotten to a level where even when they're doing the pending bills audits, we don't work like we are, the basics of corporate governance is going concern. We act like counties start their life when a governor comes in. And their life ends when a governor leaves office. So the new governor comes in and disregards everything previous and starts his life zero. So even the suppliers and everything, it's at 0 point.
Simon, I just want you to talk about the poor budget execution, lack of expenditure discipline, weak procurement planning, and political interference, and how that is affecting the suppliers, the debt that is there, and implementation of projects by the counties.
If we were to be honest, and I'm actually hoping that the new system that the Treasury is implementing for procurement will work, is every procurement done in our country, you shouldn't buy a successive product in the same category without settling the first one. Because what you're doing is you're doing that musical chair game with people's money. Pay this one, or this one, pay this one, or this one, pay this one, or this one. So you keep circling people like that. So ordinarily what happens is the pain of business is never felt by the officer. Because he can get his people paid. But the 10th of Kenyans who are in genuine business and who supply genuinely never get the money in. We have cases, guys have even gone to court, taken county to court. Now county has delay tactics. So you have a case in court because of a pending bill, then you decide let's settle it in court, then the judge pushes the case for 5 years down the line.
So we are Mark. So we're saying that if you give somebody, for crying out loud, if we're saying now that the 10% that you talk about, or the 15 or whatever, that if you then offer and say, okay, well, Simon, I just need to be paid, you take something and give me money. Are you saying that this money will miraculously come out?
Of course. Okay, we are in Kenya. So counties will pay based on how well you can bribe. So you've gotten to a level where now supplying counties is it's not about how good you are, how competent you are. And if you want to look at it, look at the quality of products being given to counties. Because it's based on, since I need to make good margins and I know I will bribe at some point, I give you the least value or the least quality. Because at the end of the day, I need money. And this is why I say, the problem of our agencies in Kenya is arresting the wrong people. I wish we were to do a wealth audit of the chief officers and see since not independent, since devolution. With the kind of salaries they make, you'll even be shocked. It's the suppliers' money that is keeping them in those big places here and there. Because imagine 30%, okay, on average 20% of let's say 100 billion worth of supplies across counties. So you're bribing 20 billion every year to people for the work not done, for them to do their job.
You know, the question that I keep having. So the government has come up with digital procurement, right?
Yes,
which is supposed to be rolled out in a few. And then number two, because the Public Finance Act is very clear that even these officers you talk about should have a procurement plan, go through certain procurement processes, and their job is to just inspect whether the goods or services were delivered, say yes or no, and then they get into the online system. I've forgotten what it's called. Government thing. IFMIS, right? And then they approve. Done, you've got your money because they had your account from the beginning, right? So IFMIS was one of the solutions, digital solutions to this procurement and payment issue, right?
No, it wasn't. If technology is a bad thing, is the word I wanted to use, but I'm on here. If your processes are inefficient physically,
yes, they can't be
the moment you're digitized, you are magnifying inefficiency. National government works fantastic with IFMIS. And that's the beauty of it. It works fantastic. Now come to counties, that's where the mess is. But national government with IFMIS, A1.
I hear you say that IFMIS at the counties has been engineered to intentionally fail.
Not engineered. There are no processes. And I've always said this, even if you push them to use a model for IFMIS, they'll ask you for quotes, they'll ask you for documents, it will pen that they'll ask for another supplier.
Okay, this is not a secret, right? It's in the open. We're having this discussion here where thousands of people are listening. So it's not as though there is some kind of shame whereby they say, no, don't tell anybody, Simon, don't talk. It is out in the open, and yet it continues to happen as though it is okay and accepted. We read and saw the horror story of the woman who was owed money by one of the counties and took her own life because it was just too much. Auctioneers had taken her things, bank loan had gone crazy. She couldn't send her children to school anymore. But she mirrors the issues that many other people are facing as a result of this kind of thing. My question is, how can it be that this is it's in broad daylight? It's not under the cover of darkness. It is happening. People are suffering today, but it is still a practice that seems to be accepted. And it would appear as though you can't do business with counties and still remain sane.
I'll take you back to history. History is an amazing object. It was okay to be associated with Pablo Escobar. At some point in life, it was fashionable. And yet, everyone knew this guy selling drugs. But it was okay because it was funding politicians, building houses, and it was okay. So I'm a friend of Pablo Escobar, and I'm okay. Now, it's also fashionable to say you're supplying counties and you're in debt. And it has become the norm to everyone to say, biashara ya county achana nayo. So we have accepted that counties have failed. We have accepted that they are too corrupt to even work with. It's just that we are not doing too much to sort that problem. And that's the honest truth. The same way I've given you an example. So we will keep beating the drums until someone will be like, okay, how do we sort this crisis? Because it's a crisis. As we speak right now, the county pending bills is a crisis. And I stayed here the other time. Kiambu, 6 billion. Under what miracle would they clear those debts in 2 years?
Nairobi
118. Under what miracle would they clear the debt even in 10 years? Now, even if they go the national, because I've seen this securitization of bills, counties will adopt it. It's another cash cow. Because they will do this, raise money to clear pending bills, get kickbacks, create more crises in pending bills, do securities, get kickbacks. So at the end of the day, we are talking about pending bills like it's a sweet topic, but it's a bitter topic. We're talking about people's money that are dead in counties and their families and people dying without ever recovering that money.
Simon, you are a supplier, and you've mentioned something to do with lack of processes at the counties that is making all these problems. So how do we fix it?
One, we fix it by two things. We need to have very good checks and balances introduced at the county level. I still believe today we would have set systems in the first 2 years, in the first 5 years. But when counties now became, right now everyone wants to be a governor, is not there to serve you. Because he's not able to steal money in the Senate, so they can steal money in the county. They're not going there because they love their homeland. At now because I come from Migori, become governor of Migori, I'm going to help Migori people. No, it's because now, it's also my county. It's because I'm not able to steal money in the Senate. So uko mashinani, I will be able to do it. So we need to push for systems to work in the county government so that we have value for money. We have gotten to a level where at some point, even the main hospitals couldn't get medicine because you owe suppliers of medicine money. Even the medical equipment, a lot of medical equipment suppliers are owed money by county. So as we speak about good health care, I always say, SHA could be working, but you go to a hospital without equipment because the supplier is not supplying the equipment because it's not being paid. So SHA is working, but you go and they tell you, you want MRI, hatuna machine, it'll collapse. And the guy to repair is owed like 10 million. So you think he's going to come another $1 million? And SHA is working, it's not bad. Now you don't get treated. Then you go to private hospital. So do you know when you go to home, what do you say? SHA is not working. Yeah. But is it SHA not working? Or is it that the hospitals owe medical supplies too much money that the equipment in hospitals, in public hospitals, are dead?
Mark?
Just a quick one. I'm obsessed with this thing. If we get the right governor, systems work. We get the wrong governor, systems don't work. Is the political will of the governor the main driving force behind competent
Correct.
counties?
Correct.
That is a bombshell, my friends.
So 2027, choose the right governor who will put systems in place, you're good to go. Choose a bad governor, we'll still be crying about county spending and debt 2028.
And that's where we will be. And that's where it is. The buck stops with one person and what they're essentially willing to do or not do. We can't not have these conversations, and it's good that we consistently do. So I want to thank you so much for being here, Simon, and we'll do again. We'll follow up again, in a short while and see how things are actually going. Simon Gishuki is the Secretary General of the Association of Public Sector General Suppliers, has been our guest this hour, and we're asking the question, where does the money go? Well, now we see. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.